Welcome into our overtime segment here on Super Sunday. That's what I said in the last segment. I think I said Super. I think I said Super Sunday. Been very careful not to say the other name because one of the stations in town is threatening to sue anybody who says those two words together. Not that I have a problem with the other station in town acting like children, but okay, here we go. We started this. We talked. Yeah, exactly. It's ridiculous. It's promotion for your game. Why wouldn't you want people promoting your game? Crazy. Mark, we talked about this a little bit during the show. I want to get into it more. We talked about joystick coaching. Why doesn't Rick Barnes do more joystick coaching? Someone tweeted me yesterday and said, I feel this team is getting out-coached. I think coaching is the last issue with this team. Isn't it? I mean, is there any way? I'm not saying Rick Barnes is perfect. No coach is. But I don't see Rick Barnes as being the big issue with this team. It's the roster, isn't it? 99% of it?
There's a reason why this team was picked, 13th in preseason? The roster's that low. And it's not Coach Barnes, to what he has done, I think he's been really good. I think there's a million different ways that you can coach. You know, Bo Ryan, who went to the Final Four National Championship last year, is not a joystick coach. I mean, define joystick coach. I mean, most of your coaching, if you're still having to coach a ton in the game, you haven't done your job in practice.
And that's what Barnes is alluding to.
And that's why you have to coach these guys to do things the right way in practice, because if you're yelling and screaming at them when there's 20,000 people cheering you on, it's hard to play that way. You got to create habits, and I think that's what Coach Barnes does really well.
Guys, I just think, and Josh, you're in talk radio, so you deal with it on it. My thinking on this is, whenever a coach says, I'm not X, people are going to want X with every loss. It was the same with Cuonzo.
Even if they don't know why, you should be.
Yeah, with Cuonzo Morton, it was, if you're or Jim Boeheim or whoever you want to go, if you're all zone, you better be man. If you're all man, you better throw in some zone. If you're, not a joystick coach, you better be up stomping your feet.
Back to football season. Why did you lose those close games? Because you don't make adjustments.
Don't make adjustments.
You don't make adjustments. That became the mantra for the football season.
Josh, I just think it's a little. Whenever you say I don't do something, that is the one thing that will always come back in terms of what we do, media, and in terms of the fans getting to the coaches through the media.
Well, one thing that happens with sports
looking at me like, the hell are you trying to say? Which, trust me, that's what the little voice in my head was also saying. Go ahead.
One thing that happens with sports talk radio, which you should always listen to, is we have to blame somebody. Somebody has to be blamed for what's happening, even if what's happening was fully expected. And it was expected that Tennessee would be right around here, right? That they'd be an 11-12 win team probably after 23 games. I don't think there's a coach in America that would have Tennessee at 14, 15 wins or more. And there would be a lot of coaches that would have Tennessee at less than 11 wins at this point in the season.
How big is this game coming up? Rick Barnes lost his first matchup with Bruce Pearl at Auburn, had the lead. If he loses twice to Bruce Pearl, that Pearl crowd, he's going to hear it. Now, it may be a small crowd. I hope it is. But how big is this game for Rick Barnes? I'm sure he would look at it and say it's just another game. All right, you've been a coach. How big is it? Or do you say it really is just another game?
No, it is big. I think we'd be lying if we didn't say it was, because of that, the people that call into Josh's show, because of that part of the fan base. Because it's the players hear that noise and recruits hear that noise. And to be able to lose going on too, because look, the fact of it is, yes, Auburn has struggled. They've underperformed. They have not met expectations. They got about 4 or 5 guys that are out injured. So they're not very good this year. They're going to get better. Look at their recruiting class. And so this is the time to beat them and to get some of that momentum. So, yes, I think it's a bigger game than just an Arkansas-type game that Coach Barnes definitely wants to win.
One thing I would say, John, is it makes that Kentucky win that much more important, because not only does that give you a signature win, a tremendous comeback, but if you had lost that game, if you had gone ahead and gotten blown out, then you go to Arkansas and you're flat, you lay an egg there, and you come home and you lose to Bruce Pearl and Auburn. Well, that would have really been tough.
And I thought you were going a different direction. You're right on all those, but here's another angle to beating Kentucky. There were a lot of those Pearl folks that were sitting there with their knives. Bruce beat them. Bruce beat him. You can't. And he was able to say, we beat him too. So I think that worked in his favor. All right, let's change the topic a little bit. Saw this one on a message board this week. Thought it was interesting. Better recruiter, Butch Jones or Philip Fulmer?
Ooh.
Well, I think to this point, I'm going to say Butch Jones, and here's the reason. Philip Fulmer came in when Tennessee was at a pretty good place.
Yep.
He was at a pretty good place. He wasn't the head coach. You already had Heath Schuler as your quarterback before he was the head coach. Now he's the guy along with Cutcliffe. But
Now,
Fulmer separated from Cutcliffe wasn't all that impressive as a recruiter. So I look at it that way. Now, I don't think there's any way that you can say that Butch Jones is better and is going to forever be better. But Butch Jones came in here with nothing to sell.
Yeah.
He came in
A
with
team that was
nothing
losing to
to
Kentucky
sell.
and Vandy.
And I would also look
So
who,
go ahead. You're
look who
saying
Butch Jones is having to recruit against, too. I mean,
much
I think,
tougher league. Yep.
Yeah. I think Coach Fulmer had it easier in that respect, in that some of the borders weren't closed. You were able to go to Georgia. You were able to go to some of these other states.
South Carolina.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that's why I think it's tougher. And I would say he's at least as good and maybe better with the job he's done, considering what he inherited.
Through this point, I
Okay,
think
you're
he's been
saying like
better.
first 3-4
Yeah.
years.
Yes.
Yeah, because he came from a tougher spot than Fulmer
It's
did.
just in the 90s, Fulmer killed it.
He
killed
did.
it.
There's no doubt
He
about it.
killed it. I mean, if you're going to say Jones is better than Fulmer, I think you have to quantify it as you did. That
Yeah.
okay.
But
It's first 3
Fulmer
or 4
was
years.
starting higher up on the mountain than Jones was.
Yeah, he had a program. He inherited a top 10 program when he got it. That's
now.
right.
I would still go Philip Fulmer, and because of the 90s, that Deion Grant, Jamal Lewis, Cozy Coleman group, Peyton Manning, of course, coming in as well. That's where I would go. But I would agree, Butch Jones he's exceeded his expectations more than Philip Fulmer because they were lower for Butch Jones.
I would say that era, it's easier to recruit kids in that era to want to be a part of something great, where it's easier in this era to recruit to kids where, hey, you have all the opportunity in the world. I don't have to sit behind somebody. So Butch doesn't have anything to sell because they've been winning. He's got a heck of a lot of playing time to sell. And so I think that's a tip. But also on Philip's side of it, he could recruit guys that wanted to be a part of a bigger program and be a part of something special, where it's different with kids these days.
All right.
Great question.
We'll thank the folks on the message boards. The last one is one I got beat up for. Somehow it's taken as a negative. I don't know why. All right, Peyton Manning has gone from being known for the first 15 years of his career as Peyton Manning to the last 2 or 3 years, he's the sheriff. People are now calling him the sheriff, which I told that to you. You had never even heard it.
I never had heard it.
All right, so I put on Twitter, I said, he's too big for a nickname. You don't give some guy a nickname at the end of his career who's Peyton Manning. I mean, he does not, some guys don't need a nickname. Oh, Lord. Putting that out there, I found out that apparently John Gruden is the guy that came up with it. So I stepped on the holy duo, Manning and Gruden. I don't think there's any need for the nickname. I think it's kind of silly. And what's funny is I said it doesn't mean anything, and a bunch of people responded via Twitter that said just because it doesn't mean anything to you doesn't mean it's meaningless to everyone. And I said, well, what does it mean? Everybody who responded had a different meaning, which means there is no meaning. If it's not the same meaning for everybody, it doesn't mean. I think he's too big for a nickname. I think it's kind of silly to go hang this on a 37-year-old guy who's the greatest or one of the greatest to ever play the game. I think the sheriff is a little silly. Do you guys like it? Approve of it?
No.
It's not like I'm losing sleep over it. I'm just saying.
I don't disapprove of it, but I don't necessarily like it either, and I really don't understand it because, once again, you already summed it up. Where did it come from, and what does it mean?
Gruden. If Gruden had called him the old butcher shop. There he is.
Here comes the butcher.
There he is.
Got his knife out.
The old European swallow. Well, Gruden said it.
I'm really thankful you're not losing sleep over another man's nickname. That's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
I think it's
Just not Manning. The other guys, yeah.
I think once you get to that, but you look at all of them, all the greats, it's usually just one name. It's Jordan, it's Jeter, it's just one. So his
Peyton.
is Peyton.
Yes.
I mean, that's
Yes.
you don't. When you say the word Peyton, you don't think of anybody else. You think of Peyton
Yeah,
Manning.
Gary Payton's not coming to everybody's mind.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nor is Sean Payton.
That's a
Yeah,
great
yeah, or
point.
Sean Payton, yeah.
That's a great. I mean, there was no extra nickname for Madonna or Cher or Elvis.
Well, I think we're also at the weakest era we've ever been with sports nicknames. We are really struggling for nicknames today. But yeah, he doesn't need one. But did you see Cam Newton after they won the NFC Championship game and he was doing his on-field interview, and he was saying, I don't even know who we're playing, which I'm not sure if that was really the truth or not. But he said, you're playing the Broncos and Peyton, and he said, the Sheriff.
Yeah.
So that's what comes to mind for Cam Newton.
It's
He's facing the
all
Sheriff.
over.
Yeah, I was confused.
It's all over this week. I mean, all the Panthers talking about, we're going against the Sheriff.
What, the Sheriff isn't big enough. I mean, I'll
Exactly.
put one out there. How about the Commander-in-Chief? That's better than the Sheriff.
I just don't think he needs one.
Well, he doesn't.
Well,
He's paid.
the silly thing, what I got was this. I said, what does it mean? They said, well, they call him the Sheriff because he always gets his guys in line. Okay, and then somebody else said, because he always finds his man hiding in the defense. Well, I don't even follow that. What does that mean? I mean, and somebody else said, because he's like a field general out there on the field. Which, if you're going to be a field general,
you gotta
you
be
want to do it
called
on
the
the
Sheriff.
field. But I thought, if you're a field general, why not call him the general or the field general?
Or the Commander-in-Chief.
The Sheriff means nothing. But it was given to Manning. It was bestowed upon him. I think actually Manning knelt to one knee. Gruden took out the sword. I now name thee the Sheriff. And then from that point on, there's no questioning it. I don't think it's necessary. When they're talking about it, I think you nailed it. I think it's better for Tennessee if people talk about Peyton. I think more people know that than the Sheriff.
If you did an on-the-street segment, you said, what do you think of the Sheriff this weekend? How many people are going to know you're talking about? If you said, what do you think of Peyton this weekend? Everybody knows.
Well, especially around here. To me,
think
the
about
Sheriff
it.
is still Andy Taylor.
Yeah, that's what I was
Well,
gonna
think
say.
about it. If you went out and asked people who in the NFL is the Sheriff and who's the Honey Badger, which nickname have more people heard? I'm going to say Honey Badger would blow it away. They may not be able to name Tyrone Matthew, but they're going to have heard the Honey Badger more than the Sheriff. Which I
Tyrone
think is a
Matthew
great
would be
deal.
afraid of the Sheriff. I can promise you that one.
Here he is, the old clubfoot. Meaningless, weird nickname. All right. But good luck to him this afternoon. We will discuss him next week, and when we talk about most beloved Vols ever. And I think he's got he's one or two on the list, and my guess is he's number one. We'll see. We'll get that debate next week. We'll also talk Tennessee basketball. Any football news that comes up, we'll see you right back here on the website. But we'll also see you on Channel 6, 11 a.m. next Sunday for the Sports Source. Thank you very much.